Hi guys, today we're going to be talking about a lot of characters we know are coming to the MCU in Phase 4, and some we think probably will. But we'll get to that right after this. The beginning of a new year is when many people start thinking about their goals, and I'm no exception. The Goal Process 101 ebook has helped me clarify the best and most achievable goals for me, plus helped me set a plan in place to accomplish them. I mean, this podcast is just one of the results of using the Goal Process 101 ebook. Check it out at christiannerdsunite.com/goals. It helped me. I'm sure it can help you too. Now, back to the show. Welcome back. As usual, I want to start with a scripture. Today we're going to be reading 2 Samuel 23, 1-5. These are the last words of David. The inspired utterance of David, son of Jesse, the utterance of the man exalted by the Most High, the man anointed by the God of Jacob, the hero of Israel's songs. The Spirit of the Lord spoke through me, his word was on my tongue. The God of Israel spoke, the Rock of Israel said to me, when one rules over people in righteousness, when he rules in the fear of God, he is like the light of morning at sunrise, on a cloudless morning, like the brightness after rain that brings grass from the earth. If my house were not right with God, surely he would not have made an everlasting covenant, arranged and secured in every part. Surely he would not bring to fruition my salvation and grant me my every desire. Now, later in this chapter, David lists his list of mighty men. It's an important group of heroes and soldiers in David's army. Well, today we're going to be looking at a lot of heroes. Specifically, we're going to be looking at the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And we're not going to talk much about people that we already have seen before. We're going to talk about people that we expect to see in Phase 4 of the MCU. Now, some of these people are absolutely confirmed. Some of them we think we will see, and some of them we're kind of guessing at. Now, Phase 4 just started with WandaVision just a few weeks ago, and there are lots of people already talking about it in the Christian Nerds Unite group. If you've not joined the group on Facebook, get over there and join the group. It's a lot of fun. Since I mentioned WandaVision, let's start with Wiccan and Speed. Now, technically, since WandaVision has already started, we've already seen Wiccan and Speed, or at least something like them. We've got Billy and Tommy. We have Wanda's children. Now, in the comics, it's a little bit different, because in the comics we had Billy and Tommy as children who were the children of Wanda Maximoff and Vision, and but in the comics they ended up being shards of Mephisto's soul, and he eventually reabsorbs them. Now, in the comics later on, somehow their souls are reborn again into a new pair of twins, to new parents, new people completely, but with the same souls. So it's a little weird in that way. So now they're not really Wanda and Vision's children, but they are still Billy and Tommy, and they become Wiccan and Speed. Now, in the MCU, we've already seen them have powers in the MCU in the WandaVision show. So spoilers if you haven't watched WandaVision yet. The MCU has taken quite a bit of liberties with the characters, so I won't be surprised if we don't get the weirdness where they have to be reborn later. We may actually see these two characters become full-fledged heroes in the future. There's a lot that needs to happen between now and then, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. It is possible that they will just completely disappear at the end of WandaVision. We simply don't know yet. My guess, just because, Marvel Studios likes to try to create things early on and likes to do a lot of buildup, these two would be great for the Young Avengers, which in the comics, that's where they fall. As Wiccan and Speed, as teenagers, young adults, they are part of the Young Avengers. And if Marvel is thinking about setting up the Young Avengers for late in Phase 4 or early in Phase 5, this would be a great pair to keep around. So keep an eye on Wiccan and Speed, Billy and Tommy from WandaVision. Next up, Adam Warlock. Now, this one's a bit of a guess. It was teased in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, but never showed up. Never came to fruition. In the comics, Adam Warlock was a huge part of the Thanos storyline, but that just didn't happen in the MCU. I don't know why. I don't know if they couldn't find the right character or if they just decided they didn't want to bring one more character in because there were so many people in that movie already. And to bring in one whole new character that had no real backstory and he was only going to be in the Thanos storyline, it might be a little hard to bring him along. In the comics, he's a hero, almost godlike, and has control of the Soul Stone. So that's another part of he doesn't really fall into the whole Thanos thing now. Like I said, Marvel has been pretty free with changing backstories, so don't be surprised, even if they bring him in, that he has nothing to do with anything to do with the Infinity Stones, has nothing to do with the Soul Stone. Now, they could also bring him in as a villain that later turns into a hero, or they could bring him in as, in the comics, he kind of has an evil alter self called Magus. So that's a possibility. If we're going to see an Adam Warlock, expect to see him in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. That's my expectation if we ever see him. My guess is if he doesn't show up in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, he probably is not going to ever show up, and we'll just sweep that under the rug and pretend it never happened. Now, another character we definitely have confirmation of is Shang-Chi. Now, Shang-Chi has his own movie coming out, going to be Shang-Chi and the Legends of the Ten Rings. Now, when we hear Legends of the Ten Rings, that means we also have Mandarin. And the rumor has it that we are going to see a real Mandarin this time. A Mandarin that has not only leadership of a military force, but also some sort of mystical powers. And in the comic books, they're gathered from his 10 rings that he physically wears, and each ring gives him a different power. Now, that would be a really cool thing to bring into the MCU, and I hope they go there. Now, the big question is, Shang-Chi, basically, he's just a skilled martial artist. Very skilled martial artist, but just a skilled martial artist all the same. Will they give Shang-Chi some sort of mystical powers? Will they do some weird twist and basically make Shang-Chi the new Iron Fist of the MCU? That's a possibility. They've done stranger things before. No telling. Now, the other question on my mind is the new movie, is it going to be pretty much a straightforward martial arts film, or is it going to be a superhero film, or is it going to be some combination of the two? My expectation and hope that it is some combination of the two. That is going to be a great movie. I'm super excited about it. Next, going to Disney Plus, we definitely have confirmation of a She-Hulk show. Now, Disney Plus has already said that they have cast this person. She-Hulk is going to be played by Tatiana Maslany, and of Orphan Black fame. So that's going to be a great choice. I'm super excited to see her in all her hulky glory. That'll be a lot of fun. Now, like I said, it is a Disney Plus show, so it's going to be a series, and I expect there to be some interesting things there. Now, one thing I read hinted that this was going to be a comedy. I was hoping this was going to be more like a Law and Order in the Marvel Universe. Dun dun. We'll see what they decide to do. I'm not really sure what this one's going to look like. But we know She-Hulk in canon, in the comic book canon, she is a lawyer, and we are expecting this to be some sort of show where she is a lawyer. She's also the cousin to Bruce Banner, and we are being told that we are expecting her to also be the cousin to Bruce Banner. So expect to see Mark Ruffalo do at least some kind of cameo. There's no reason they shouldn't. In the comics, she actually got her powers from a transfusion of his blood. Now, she's a little bit different. When she changes into the Hulk, she is able to control it. She actually stays in her Hulk form primarily, keeps her mind, even wears fancy dresses, and she's not always in her superhero getup. She actually dresses the part of a regular person while she is the She-Hulk character. But in the comics, she's also able to change back to her regular human form, but rarely does. So my expectation is that they will keep her as the She-Hulk, as the green giant woman the entire time. That's my hope. They might not, but that's my hope. I hope they don't just turn her into a mindless beast from time to time. I would rather see She-Hulk as a superhero with the, kind of like the brainy Hulk we see in Endgame. So have that as the She-Hulk. I hope that's the way they go. Now, if they really want to make a Young Avengers happen, and I'm going to talk a lot about Young Avengers today because I think it's a thing. I think it's going to happen. I'm just not sure when. My guess is it's going to be Phase 5. But if they want to see that happen, then it's possible they could bring Hulkling in to this show. Now, if they did, probably they would change the storyline quite a bit for Hulkling's background, because in the comics, there's a lot of question of who he is, where he really came from, and eventually it comes out that he is the son of a Skrull princess and the original male version of Captain Marvel. And I think probably if they bring Hulkling in, and if they bring him in to the She-Hulk show, they'll change his backstory pretty significantly. But that's the way we think it could happen if they want to bring Hulkling in to the Young Avengers and have a reason to use the She-Hulk show to do it. Since it is going to be an episodic show, there's not a reason they couldn't. Now, the other possibilities are that this is going to be New York. So, New York lawyer, what do we have? We could see a Matt Murdock. And with a Matt Murdock, we could see Daredevil come into this show as an opposing lawyer, as a consulting lawyer. Lots of possibilities could happen there to bring in Matt Murdock, Daredevil. And if that happens, there's a good likelihood we could bring in Power Man Luke Cage or even Iron Fist. So we'll see where that all goes. I think it's exciting. I really hope that we do see at least a Matt Murdock. Whether we see a Daredevil or not, I hope we see Matt Murdock come in as a lawyer onto the She-Hulk show. Now, next is Monica Rambeau. Once again, technically, we've already seen Monica Rambeau. We saw her in the first Captain Marvel movie just as a child. And now we are seeing her in the WandaVision show as an adult. And there are lots of possibilities here. Now, since we've already seen her, spoiler alert for WandaVision if you haven't watched it, we're already finding out that her genetic code is being rewritten somehow because she crossed through the barrier. My guess is that she has already started to become the character in the comics, which was in the comics, she became Captain Marvel for a while, and then she became Binary, that just changed names, and eventually became Photon. And my guess is we're going to give her a code name of Photon because that was her mother's call sign. Now, in a lot of these MCU movies, they don't tend to use the name of the superhero all that often. When Captain America shows up, he'll introduce himself as Steve Rogers, not as Captain America. Other people will call him Captain America. When we see Hawkeye in the MCU, they don't call him Hawkeye generally. They call him Barton. They call him by his actual last name. And that goes for Natasha Romanoff. They'll call her Natasha. They won't call her Black Widow. So it's possible we'll see her become a superhero. My guess is we'll see her have superpowers by the end of WandaVision. Now, what those are going to look like, in the comics, it was kind of she basically was able to turn into light, to focus light, to shoot light beams. It was all light-centric powers. So my guess is that's where they'll go. And I would love to see her come in and be one of the new Avengers. That would be great. Another possibility is that since they already had information on her biology, it is possible that she's already had powers before this, but not realized them because she was going up into space and being exposed to certain cosmic rays through being part of the Sword organization. So we'll get to that here in a little bit as well. I'll expound on that a little bit more, and I'll say why that's important. Now, the next person I'm going to talk about, this one, we don't have confirmation on. Technically, we've already seen her, kind of. This is Cassie Lang. Now, if you're not familiar with Cassie Lang, that is the daughter of Scott Lang, Ant-Man. Now, we've seen her all grown up as a teenager, young adult, in Avengers Endgame. So, who is she? In the comics, she becomes the superhero Stature, which is another one of the young Avengers. You can see where this is going. So using the Pym particles, she's able to grow very tall or very small, and she has various names, but Stature is the most familiar name. Definitely could happen. Once again, if Kevin Feige wants Young Avengers to happen, Cassie's already there. There's no reason not to use her. And I think that would be a great character to bring on. Next person is Jane Foster. This is Natalie Portman's character from the Thor movies. We already have confirmation she will be in the movie Love and Thunder, and she will be, from the comics, they would call her the Mighty Thor. And it's a female version of Thor. It definitely fits in with the comics. Personally, I'm a little disappointed that they are going this way. I'm not a huge fan of Natalie Portman as an actress. She's fine. I don't think she's spectacular. I would rather have seen them go a different way. If they said they wanted to have a female Thor, I would have rather them went with Tessa Thompson's Valkyrie and given her the hammer. Let her be the female Thor leading her Asgardians. But that's not what they've decided to do. They've decided to go back to the comics, go with Jane Foster. Now, I'm curious as to what the motivation is going to be. Now, one of the big motivations in the comics is that Jane Foster has contracted cancer, and while she holds the hammer, while she is Thor, the cancer is nowhere to be seen. When she doesn't have the hammer, she is Jane Foster, riddled with cancer and not in a good way health-wise. So I don't know if they'll go that direction. I suspect they won't. I suspect it will be something else, but we'll have to wait and see what that one is going to be. I'm interested to see the movie. I'm not excited about Natalie Portman. I am excited about Tessa Thompson because we're expecting to see her Valkyrie in the movie. Even though Jane Foster is going to be the one holding the hammer. So it could actually be interesting if there's a little bit of a conflict there as to who should have the hammer. Now that could be good, and I'd love to see that. Next is Moon Knight. Now, some of you may not be super familiar with Moon Knight. He has been an Avenger. He's been in different teams from time to time. He is kind of a Batman analog somewhat, with a slightly different backstory. He has a white costume instead of a black costume. He is a vigilante, goes out at night. So we've got those things going on. He has lots of gadgets. He throws little moon-shaped throwing stars. He's a rich guy. So lots of similarities to Batman. But his backstory is significantly different. Originally, he is a mercenary. He's rich, but he is a mercenary who dies in a temple to a moon god, and he is brought back to life and becomes this hero, Moon Knight. Moon Knight is a great character. He's had a lot of story time in the comics, and he could be a great player as a new Avenger. So we'll see where that one goes. The next film that I want to talk about, and I say I'm going to talk about a film here. I've been talking about characters. I'm going to talk about a film. It's the Eternals. There are a lot of them. So, I'm going to lump them all in together. We've got Icarus, played by Richard Madden. We've got Circe, played by Gemma Chan. We've th Athena, played by Angelina Jolie. We've got Gilgamesh, played by Don Lee. We've got Phastos, played by Brian Henry. There's even more. And I'm concerned about this film. I think it's too many characters too quick. Now, before you say, but the Avengers movies had tons of people in them. Yes, but we got backstories on a lot of them before the movies came out, or slightly after the movie came out, we got more movies with those individuals. Don't expect to see individual movies based on Eternals. Probably they will be a group, and they will only be a group. This would be more like a Guardians of the Galaxy with almost twice as many characters. Now, but wait, there's more. We also have Kit Harington from Game of Thrones, who will be playing the Black Knight. Now, that one seems a little odd. We've got this whole group of eternal beings, space group of heroes, and then we've got the Black Knight. Well, in the comics, the Black Knight and Circe have some things going on from time to time, so I think that's probably where this is going. If we keep the Black Knight around, probably we'll see more of Circe as well. My guess is we'll see less of the other Eternals. Now, the Black Knight is technically in the comics has had two iterations. We had a villain that was the Black Knight, technically the uncle of the new or current Black Knight, who is a hero. Black Knight has been an Avenger from time to time, a long-time Avenger, actually, and he carries an ebony blade. So got some mystical powers going on with the ebony blade. He is a descendant of the original Black Knight from King Arthur times. So it's kind of an interesting story. I'm excited to see what happens with this. I'm just not sure he's going to have a lot of play, a lot of screen time in the movie. Another problem I have with this particular film is there's a few names on here that are a little too big. When we look at a lot of the MCU movies, we don't see huge names. Now, you think, well, Robert Downey Jr. is a huge name. He is now. Robert Downey Jr. had kind of hit rock bottom before Iron Man. Think about that. When Iron Man 1 came out, they were looking for somebody, and they said, let's use Robert Downey Jr. He did not have the kind of pull he does today. And he didn't have the kind of pull he did way back in the day. He did really well, got a lot of fame, and then crashed pretty hard. Marvel gave him a new shot, and he became huge. Think about that. Most of the other actors were that way too. Now, they weren't unknowns. Don't get me wrong. They weren't completely unknowns, but they didn't have the star power they had before their Marvel movies came out. We're talking about Angelina Jolie in an Eternals movie. Angelina Jolie has huge star power right up front. How much are they going to spend to get Angelina Jolie to get in a movie? How much screen time are they going to give her? I don't know. The sheer volume of actors that are in this movie gives me caution for how this movie is going to work. But that being said, these are all characters who are coming to Phase 4. Well, next up is going to be Riri Williams or Ironheart. And the part is already being cast. Dominic Thorne is going to be playing Riri Williams. It's going to be a Disney Plus show. Now, Riri Williams is a 15-year-old who basically creates upgraded Iron Man armor. Now, I doubt they're going to say it's upgraded Iron Man armor because he was so high-tech by the time the last movie came out. I'm not sure how much more high-tech Iron Man armor can be. My guess is she's going to create her own Iron Man armor from scratch. I hope they don't just say they gave her an Iron Man costume. I want her to build it. I want her to have designed it. I want to be her thing. And guess what? Another good candidate for the Young Avengers. Do you see a pattern? All right. So next up, I've got John Walker, U.S. Agent. And many of you are probably not familiar with U.S. Agent, a little bit lesser known character. Now, it has been cast and has already been shooting. Wyatt Russell is playing John Walker. And this is a character who's going to show up here in just about a month in the Falcon and Winter Soldier show. Now, in the comics, he was chosen as the government's choice to replace Captain America when Captain America put the shield down for a short period of time. Why is that significant? If they play that up in the Falcon and Winter Soldier show, which my guess is they will, it will say that the government has put somebody in the place of Captain America. It's this John Walker character. And they want to give him the shield. And they're coming to Falcon and Winter Soldier to ask for the shield back. I don't think that's going to go well. Because I already think there's some conflict there between the Falcon and Winter Soldier as to who should be carrying the shield. And I don't think either of them believe that U.S. Agent should hold it. So I think this is going to be a great show. I think this is going to be a good character. I think he will probably come off as a villain, at least initially, and probably turn into a hero in the end, but in his own right. But I think at first he will be more of an adversary. Definitely not the main villain. We already know who the main villain is going to be in Falcon and Winter Soldier, but I think it will be an antagonistic situation. Next is Ms. Marvel. Ms. Marvel, if you're not familiar with this character, now I'm not talking about Ms. Marvel from the 70s, who is Carol Danvers, who becomes Captain Marvel. I'm talking about Ms. Marvel, fairly recent comic book character, who is Kamala Khan. And she's a 16-year-old Pakistani American growing up in Jersey City. This Disney Plus show is expected to lead up to Captain Marvel 2. They're supposed to both be releasing the same year, 2022. And there's a little conjecture as to which one's going to come first. A lot of people are saying that Ms. Marvel will happen first, and it will lead into Captain Marvel 2. That's my expectation as well. This is, once again, another great candidate for a young Avenger. And one more young Avenger for you, Kate Bishop. Now, who's Kate Bishop? She is the new Hawkeye. She's trained by Clint Barton, and she's another character from the comics that could be a great young Avenger. The part has already been cast, and the Kate Bishop will be played by Hallie Steinfeld. And we're also going to see a new supervillain we haven't seen before. I don't know if supervillain is the right word, but a villain known as Clown. So I'm not sure where that's going to play in. I don't know how close they're going to match this to the comics. But from everything we have seen so far, we at least know they're going to follow the comics to the point of Clint Barton is going to be training Kate Bishop as an archer. And she will be a new Hawkeye. Once again, a new young Avenger. Could she play into the regular Avengers? Possibly. But my guess is if they're going to go this route, they'll push her into the young Avengers. Next is a little bit different. We know there is going to be a Black Widow movie coming out, and it's coming out soon, and I'm super excited about this movie. We're going to see two people. One is a hero, one's technically a villain. We're going to see the Red Guardian, who is, for all intents and purposes, the Soviet version of Captain America. So that'll be an interesting character to see. And from the previews that we've seen, it looks like he's a little past it. So hopefully that's going to be an exciting part of the movie. Another one is the villain in this movie. We're going to see Taskmaster. If you're not familiar with Taskmaster, he's a great villain. He can learn any fighting technique simply by watching it, which means if he sees you fighting, he can instantly duplicate your moves and find ways to defeat you. That's going to be hard for this group of people to beat somebody like Taskmaster. Now, there's one other person in this movie that's a possible new hero. Who am I talking about? Yelena Belova. She's supposed to be Natasha's sister. Now, why is this important? With Black Widow dying in Endgame, we have a hole in the Avengers. Who is going to replace this person? Who's going to replace the Black Widow, Natasha? Are they going to bring her back? I doubt it. I don't see them bringing her back. It is possible that Natasha's sister steps into that role. Now, it's also possible that this won't happen. Definitely would not be a young Avenger, I don't think. I think this would be on the main Avengers team. An espionage type character to match up with Clint Barton. And I think this is a good possibility that this will happen. Next, we do have this one confirmed. Mahershala Ali is going to be Blade the Vampire Slayer. Now, I'm looking forward to this. I was never a huge Blade fan, but Mahershala Ali is amazing, and I think that's going to make the movie. Now, who is Blade? Blade is a half vampire, half human. He's a vampire hunter. His whole goal is to rid the world of vampires. Now, that is a cool story, and that's a cool idea. It could be possible that this could cross over with Sony's Spider-Verse. We could see Jared Leto's Morbius, the living vampire, brought into a Blade movie or vice versa. Now, that is something I want to see. Next up is Nova. We have no confirmation on this one. Nova is purely a guess. It's possible. Kevin Feige has kind of teased this. He's been asked about Nova multiple times. Are we going to see Nova? And he always says it's possible. Some people have asked him, are we going to see Richard Rider Nova? Are we going to see Sam Alexander Nova? And he says yes. So at some point, but he doesn't say when. Could Nova show up in Phase 4? Absolutely. Richard Rider version of Nova has a great shot of showing up in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. The script hasn't been written yet. At least not fully. They haven't started shooting at all. So there's a lot of possibilities there. Now, this is the older version of Nova. He's a full-grown adult. He's from the original Nova Corps, and he kind of takes over their place, taking over the guardianship of the Nova. And we've already heard that the Nova Corps is basically wiped out by Thanos. So this makes sense that we could see a Richard Rider Nova come in. Now, the other possibility is Sam Alexander. Now, why is Sam Alexander relevant in this conversation? Because once again, Sam Alexander would be a great fit for the Young Avengers show. I don't have a good way for him to get into the MCU. Nothing actually comes to mind right offhand as to how you would get him into the film. But he would be a great option for one of the Young Avengers. Last but not least, earlier I talked about Monica Rambeau. I talked about going into space. I talked about the Sword Organization. Once again, WandaVision spoilers if you haven't watched it. In WandaVision, they talk a little bit about their space program, and a lot of people have decided not to come back, and they're questioning their ability to send people into space. Well, the Fantastic Four become superheroes because they went to space and experienced cosmic rays. So is it possible we will see the Fantastic Four in Phase 4? Well, Kevin Feige has already announced there will be a Fantastic Four movie. Will it be Phase 4 or will it be early Phase 5? I'm not positive. A lot of people are saying it will be Phase 4. And, it's the Fantastic Four. It makes sense. It should be the last Phase 4 movie. You just have to do that. We don't have a date for this movie. We have no casting. All we know is there is a plan and it will happen at some point. Now, what does this really look like? I would expect that we start hearing things, we start seeing things dripped on us about the Fantastic Four over the course of the next few years. Will we see the characters come into other shows? Possibly. There is a lot of conjecture as to who Monica Rambeau is going to go visit right now in WandaVision. And it could be, a lot of people are saying it is, Reed Richards, an aerospace engineer, and which he was in the comics. He designed the ship that took them into space that was blasted with cosmic rays that gave them superpowers. Is it possible we're going to see a Reed Richards here in just the next few weeks? Maybe already has superpowers, or maybe he's a Reed Richards that doesn't yet have superpowers. With Sword going into space, this is the opportune time to be able to say, here's where we're building this in to our universe. We have a space agency that is sending people up, and we're going to eventually send 4 people up that are going to come back down as Mr. Fantastic, the Invisible Girl, the Thing, and the Human Torch. Now, when is it going to happen? Like I said, we don't have dates on any of this. I would expect that this is going to be post 2023, probably. But I think it's probably the most exciting thing we've heard about. And I believe that Kevin Feige is already putting the breadcrumbs out there for us to see it now. Well, we've talked about a lot of heroes, and I hope we see them all. I love seeing heroes. Before you go, like and subscribe and share the podcast. We want to get as many Christian nerds involved as possible. Also, join us on Facebook at Christian Nerds Unite and check out the website christiannerdsunite.com. Before I go, I do want to pray a quick blessing over you. Eternal God and Father, by whose power we are created and by whose love we are redeemed, guide and strengthen us by your Spirit, that we may give ourselves to your service and live this day in love to one another and to you. Through Jesus Christ, your Son, our Lord. Amen. We'll see you next week.